Hello everyone and welcome to episode 5, season 2 of Paranormal Living with me, your host, Jared Warren. So I have an exciting episode for you today. I do hope you enjoy it. So we're going to be talking about the recent live vigil, which we did Saturday just gone. Had a few interesting things over the course of the episode. I also have been on a mediumship course with the Arthur Findley College. So going into detail about that, going to talk about that. Sort of, I guess you could say, a follow-on from the development episode. Bit of an update from there. We also have some news coming about some interviews which are coming up in the pipeline, which I'm really excited to tell you about. Before we do get into the episode, remember everybody to like our social media page, Paranormal Living on Facebook, Paranormal Live 20 on Twitter, YouTube, Paranormal Living TV, also TikTok, which is all the rage, which TikTok has absolutely blown up for Paranormal Living. So, you can get us on there at Paranormal Living. And of course, email paranormallivingpodcast@gmail.com. But all the links to our description for all the social media and details are in the description below. So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, you will notice I am on my own this week. Unfortunately, Jay is unavailable, so I am going solo on this episode, so I do hope you enjoy it. It is, again, a bit different for me being on my own, but all the same, I do hope you enjoy it. But just before we do get into the episode, I would like to give a shout out to our new listeners. So I've been checking the statistics. As many of you know, we've spoken about it in the past. We have listeners in Thailand, of course the States, UK, Germany, Switzerland, even in India. It's amazing. But shout out to our new listeners in Sydney and Victoria, Australia. We have new listeners in Alberta, Canada, and Colorado in the US. So hello to our new listeners. And of course, hello to our regular listeners, of course, as well. It's amazing, all your comments, all your likes and stuff, it's absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much for being a part of Paranormal Living, and I hope you're all enjoying the podcast. So to start us off on this episode, we're going to talk about Paranormal Living Live. As many of you know, quite a few of you do come on to the lives we do, which is usually on a Saturday. We've had a two-week break from that, but this weekend was the start again of Paranormal Living Live, and it was absolutely amazing. So thank you very much to everyone who tuned in and it was a part of the live. So of course we did finish with the vigil, which has become a regular thing on the Paranormal Living Live as well. So it was an interesting vigil this week. It wasn't the most active as we've had in the past, but a really cool thing happened. So I, as we were sort of sitting in the energy, because like I said, not much happened, but there was a lot of energy around and these feelings, and you could sense it was a very much different way of what we've experienced in the past. And I, at the minute, started just drawing. So I had a piece of paper and the pen in my hand, just started doodling, as I'm sort of calming my mind down, see if we can get anything happens. And I ended up drawing this box, but it was quite a tall box as I'd drawn it. But I just got the sense of that it was a jewellery box, even though it didn't look like a jewellery box. I just got this sense. So you can see this on the live, so I show it to our people watching, and Betty, who is a regular watcher and follower of Paranormal Living, she said it looked a bit similar to her a jewellery box. So I said, I'll send you a picture. And then as I'm doing this, I drew a ring and I said, Betty, have you lost something or misplaced a piece of jewellery? Because this is what I'm getting. And I drew this ring. And I was like, could it just be a coincidence, because automatically you think jewellery box. And I'm a nightmare, I've mentioned this in the past, for doubting myself. And rather than just saying it and going with it, I have to sit on it. So as this is happening, Betty sent me a picture of the jewellery box. And then she found her son's ring in the top compartment where she lifted the lid up. And she looked everywhere for this ring, couldn't find it. She checked the jewellery box, like I say, couldn't find it anywhere. And for that to happen, and live on air, and to be a part of that is amazing. So shout out to Betty. I'm so happy, we found the ring, and yeah, just amazing, beautiful thing to be involved in. That definitely was a highlight of the live feed. So we will be live again very, very soon. Like you say, if you follow the social medias, the event will be up there, and we will put the post out to let you know when we'll be next live, which will probably be in the next week or so. As I mentioned in the intro of the show, we do have some news and interview is coming up, which I'm really excited for. So the latest news at the moment is April. As many of you know, we've been due to go to the ancient Ramin down in Gloucester way since November of last year. And of course, with everything what's going on, it's constantly been postponed and dates changed. But at the minute, all being well, we will be there in April. So I'm absolutely looking forward to this. And episode 1 of Paranormal TV will be live as long as this goes ahead, by the end of April. And of course, while we are there at the Ramin, we'll be going live throughout the course of the evening as well. The history of this place and, the stories you hear and the experiences people have had. Even today, at time of recording this on Tuesday, I was watching a few things on the Ramin and a few investigations online, and the place is absolutely immense. It looks immense, and, I'm nervous, but I'm really, really excited to go. So for those who have been to the Ramin, please do send us a message. Let us know what experiences you had, any stories. Please do get in contact with us. In the description below is our email, social media. Please do get us on there and let us know your stories. In the past few weeks, I've been in touch with a number of people as well who are involved in the paranormal world. People who are paranormal investigators, mediums, trance mediums, like you say, a wide variety of people, who we have got lined up to come onto the podcast to be able to be interviewed and share their stories and their experiences with you all. It's going to be amazing. Unfortunately, I can't tell you who the first one is, but there will be an announcement on Facebook very, very soon. And, of course, the rest of the social media. So please do look out for that. This is an invite to all of you as well who listen to the show. If you would like to come on the podcast to share your experiences, your stories, please do get in contact with us. Get us on Facebook, Paranormal Living, Twitter, Paranormal Live 20. Message us on TikTok, Paranormal Living. And, of course, email paranormallivingpodcast@gmail.com. Now, the Arthur Findley College. So for those who may not know, the Arthur Findley College is a college of spiritualism and psychic sciences, which is based in Stansted in Essex. Here they have teachers who teach you everything from mediumship, spiritual healing, meditation, development, sound, colour, philosophy, psychic art, and trance mediumship. And I've seen some of the artwork. There's a person I'm friends with, and she did a course there doing psychic art and with pastels and things. And the results are absolutely amazing. When you put it together with the person they've been reading for and you see the pictures, it's amazing. Unfortunately, as we all know, due to everything what's going on, I wasn't able to go to the college, which I was really gutted about because when it was booked, it was looking promising, but as we say, things happen. So it was all done over Zoom, which was interesting, which didn't know what to expect. I thought it's going to be a bit different. But wow, all I can say is wow. Just the whole experience of the weekend, and doing mediumship with the class was phenomenal. So interestingly, there was 25 of us in the class. So you had everyone from Germany, someone in Australia, Japan, Austria, the UK, of course, America, Canada. So there's a wide variety of people on this, and I was the only male in the class. So it's intimidating straight away. But I will say everybody was absolutely lovely. Everyone I spoke to, there was amazing energy about these people. And our teacher, she was from Sweden. And she's been doing mediumship for about 30 years, I think it was. She started going to the college and then made her way up through the college to now be a teacher and one of the heads of the college, which was absolutely amazing. So her knowledge was phenomenal. And at that point, I didn't know what to expect because I'm used to my own teacher, which is, of course, Denise, who is a medium for Paranormal Living. And you sort of know that, you might be told certain things which might not work for you, which she even clarified that herself. When we first spoke with her and she introduced herself, she was saying that, there might be some things you take from this, some things you may do completely different, but obviously it's all up to your interpretation and how you want to work and how you feel. So, just go with it and we'll see what happens. So I was like, yeah, that's cool. So she then went around the class. Everyone introduced themselves. We had people from fully fledged mediums to people like myself who go to a development class and people who've only just started with the mediumship and sensing spirit and people who've had no experiences at all. So it was a diverse class. And the point of this class, which helped me a lot, was it was the mind over matter thing of not constantly dwelling on things, just say it and be confident with yourself, and dissecting what is from spirit and what is your own brain. So it was a perfect course for me. Like I've said on the show numerous times, that I am a nightmare for doubting myself and just not going with the flow. Over the course of the weekend, I wrote some notes and how things went. I sort of reviewed myself, and this is the first time I've looked back for 2 weeks. What I wrote down, which I do hope for those who listen, if they are developing yourselves or thinking about it, or just in that early process, I hope some of this helps you, and you take something from it yourselves. So she was explaining at the beginning, the spirit world is actually very simple. It's actually us who overcomplicate situations and things that we do get from spirit. Again, mediumship is not actually that difficult. It's us who sit on things and overthink things, who make it more complicated than it actually should be. And she also gave me some advice, which I'd never thought about, was keeping focus behind your head. So where it's sort of just below the centre of your head, to the top of your neck, she was explaining that, you tend to feel a lot of energy around there. So, when spirit's coming in, male, female, keep sense of there and see what the energy feels like, which I thought was a very handy technique, which I did use over the course of the weekend. And also scan the room, ask your guides to come forward and imagine that light coming from your head and down around your body. So like your aura kind of thing. Scan the room, see what spirits around you and the energy you can pick up off them. Again, which I did use. It wasn't overly that successful for me using it that way, but it's a good little technique to use and sort of work with. Another technique she mentioned was using 3 hula hoops around your waist or around your belly. Like the top hoop being your close family friends, that kind of thing, and then the second hula hoop might just be uncles, aunties, and then friends or acquaintances. Whichever way you want to put it in, you visualize that and it works from there. I've never done that before. Normally for me, I just sort of feel the energy and pick it up straight away if it is a man or if they are a lady. And, that feeling of who they are and if they're a father, grandfather, uncle, auntie. That's how it personally works for me. But, of course, everybody works different, and it's very uncommon to find people who work the same. Maybe similar, but everyone works in their own little ways. So the first thing we did, she put us into a group of 2. I was then sent with this lady from Germany. She was absolutely lovely. She had a great energy about her, and she was brilliant. And sort of with the intuitiveness, you had to get an animal, and then this animal describes that person you're talking to. So for this lady, I got an elephant and a fox. So 2 complete contrasts of animals. I can't exactly remember everything I said to her, but sort of describe how an elephant is. I think they're quite emotional animals, but they are quite strong-willed. That kind of thing. And that the fox, it was like sort of describing that, she's happy, content in the area, but when you sort of go into a new place, you're a bit more, not startled, but you feel a bit more uncomfortable, and you're sort of gauging yourself in the area you're in before you jump straight into it. So that kind of thing it was. So it's quite interesting, actually. And what I give her from the elephant and the fox, she could take, and it described her quite well from what she was saying. So that was the basis of the first bit of the intuitive psychicness. Then after we'd finished in the group of 2, we went back into the lobby of Zoom, if that's what you want to call it, where you can see everybody and the teachers there. So again, it was asking questions. And another piece of advice she gave us, which I thought was really useful, was, if you're picking up hospital conditions with somebody who's passed, or, sort of ask them to take you there, look at the clock, what time is it on the wall, what's the weather like outside, who's sat round the bed, and, get them for you to visualize where you are and, describe exactly what's going on, rather than just saying, I've got some with hospital conditions, can you take that, for example. Describe exactly what you're saying, and that did really help me, especially for the second day when it was all about mediumship. Then we are put back into a group of 2, and this time I was put with a lady from Japan, which was really cool. Again, another lovely lady, and it was really cool to find out what it's like in Japan. with spiritualism and all this kind and the paranormal. So with this, we had to do a timeline of their spiritual journey, from where you believe or where you feel it started for them up till like sort of where they are today. So I end up drawing a road, just imagining a road, and at each say bus stop or each point of the road is where her journey started and carried on. I did find this very difficult though. I got bits and she understood bits about this, but again, you're not using mediumship here, you're using psychic intuitiveness. Like I say, I've never used it before. I didn't really understand the psychic intuitiveness. And like you say, it was okay. I didn't know much about how spiritualism or mediumship worked in Japan. I give her bits, she could understand bits, and I think for her, if I remember correctly, it started at a young age, but there isn't that many people around her sort of into mediumship. So she understood what I was saying there. But then afterwards, we sort of did that. We managed to have a bit of a chat for 5-10 minutes, and she was telling me all about spiritualism and mediumship and how it all works in Japan, because she does healing, this lady. And she was telling me that surprisingly it's not actually that big in Japan. There's small classes, but compared to the UK where you got spiritualist churches in every town, and mediumship's quite big over here, I'd say. It's completely the opposite there, where it's only a small community of people who work with this, and there's not that much help out there, so I believe. So it was really interesting to find out the difference in help and experiences people have. For the last part of the class, this was a really interesting part, and at the end of it, I just went, wow. So she drew a clock, and she mentioned about a friend who had passed over in spirit. So with this, for example, you pick random words. So she's like, the first word what comes to your mind, shout it out. So I said coffee at 3 o'clock or something it was. Someone wrote flowers, someone wrote woods, trees, whatever. And it all sort of describes this person. And, for example, I remember someone wrote sun, I think it was. And at like 1 o'clock, and it turned out he had one son, that kind of thing. So we had to do this, and we was put back in a group, and I was back with the lady I was with first, who was from Germany. So I wrote down 12 random words, which I do have here, which is money, blue car, tower, dog, ball, kettle, milk, orange, mouse, wisdom, window. So, most randomest things you can possibly think of. And then she told me who she wanted to contact, and I told her who I want to contact. So this lady was called Renata, and I mentioned John, who's my granddad. And then as we are going through the list of things, like for example, number 8, orange. She used to grow her own oranges. Things like that. He just sort of summed it out, and as we were going on, and she's giving me her random words or describing something with them words, it summed up my granddad down to a T with her. Honestly, it was the weirdest experience. And at that point, she thought the camera froze, because it just blew my mind of like, it's the most randomest things you can put together, but it summed up someone down to a T. But I think it's big. I've experienced something like that before in class, where it's like, you need to write a story. No, you just make it up as you go along, and then it turns out to be from spirit, because you're relaxed and you're thinking you're writing a load of gibberish. You're relaxed, you're not putting pressure on yourself. But then when you reverse it, as I want you to write down a message from spirit, it is like, oh, and like I say, it summed up my granddad, and absolutely amazing. And that was sort of day one, to be honest. A quote I wrote down about myself: I did the best I did right now. Stop punishing myself. The issue is, if something goes wrong, like one of the things we did didn't go very well, you automatically just sit on that negative of like, that was terrible, rather than thinking of the rest of it, which went maybe half okay. So here we are on day 2. Day 2 is all about mediumship. This was the main day I was really excited for. To work with spirit, link up, and as well as being absolutely nervous and apprehensive at all, I was excited to do readings for people, who are in completely different countries, have a different lifestyle, different way of life, and that's what I was really excited for. So then we got split into groups again, groups of 2. So I was put with the lady from London again, who I'd met the day before. And as I mentioned, she was new to this and never really worked with spirit before, but she did absolutely amazing. She picked up on my Uncle Bill. He had passed a couple of years before I was born. And, how he looked and, bits of information about him, which thankfully I knew. But it was absolutely fantastic. She did amazing. To say she'd never done anything like that before, she did brilliantly. And then it come to my turn, and it was a bit difficult because I picked up on her granddad. So I'm giving her this information, but her granddad had passed away. It was either before she was born or when, she was like a year old or something it was. So she didn't really know much about her granddad. So she wrote down, obviously, what I'd said, to ask her mum. But it was quite difficult because everything you're giving, I'm really not sure. So it was a bit difficult, but it was okay. And then we just had a chat again, talking about it, and I reassured her that what she gave was absolutely brilliant, and described my Uncle Bill. So then we come out of that class, and then we was talking about it because normally for me, when we do mediumship, I open up. So I've mentioned this in the episode about myself. When I open up, I take my normal cloak off and I put my spiritual cloak on. So I do this in like a meditation. And then you turn on your chakras, from the bottom to the top. And then you ask spirit to come forward and set off that light to source. And then I go into a corridor, and then there's about 6 different rooms. And then depending what I'm doing, so if I'm in class, I'll go into maybe room 1, and which is like a library. And it looks sort of like a classroom. And normally, to be honest, my granddad stood behind me or stood in the room with me. And like I said, different rooms for different things. So that's what we did. But on this occasion, we never opened up. So I think part of me was like, maybe that's why it didn't really go to plan, because I've always opened up. But the teacher was adamant, said, you don't have to open up. Just go with it, because, when you're ready to work, spirit are there, no matter what. So just before we went into the next reading, I was thinking about that information. We're having a discussion with the teacher. So I just took a minute out just to sort of relax myself or try to calm myself down, because I was still absolutely nervous and petrified. So we did another reading again. And this one went 10 times better. I don't know what it was, but the links were so much stronger. And this lady was from Germany. Her energy was absolutely amazing. We couldn't stop laughing. As soon as I met her, and just as you greet her, honestly, she was crazy. It was amazing. She just, life. It was that kind of person, life of the party, just bubbly and, fun. She calmed me down straight away. We had a good little rapport with each other, which definitely helped. And the information I give her, she took everything, which I was absolutely pleased with. And, she's been a medium for about 15 years, this lady. So I think you partly do feel a bit more pressure as well, because she does this. This is her living. She works with spirit all the time. And, afterwards I'd finished and give her the reading and things. She was saying everything was there. You had the evidence. It was, you just need to have more confidence in yourself. You're lacking confidence, and you're just thinking about things too much, which I've said, obviously, quite a few times. I've said I know. And then she gave me a reading. So she picked up on my dad and my granddad. So she had like a bit of a split link. So it was just separating the 2 people. And it was amazing. My dad passed away July last year due to unforeseen circumstances, shall we say. And everything she said, down to a T. Even the jacket my granddad wore, what my dad did for a living. He used to drive lorries, HGVs. And some of these memories she brought back. And, even about my granddad helping me on my spiritual journey. And, things like that. And the evidence she gave was just spot on. Definitely amazing. And it was nice for my dad to come through again, because that's the second time he's come through on a reading. So it was amazing. And I left that one after talking to her. She's given that bit of a kick up the arse, shall we say. And maybe boosting confidence as well. Just the whole feeling of that reading with her was something I'd never experienced before, and we just, like you say, we just had a rapport with each other, and she was absolutely lovely. So yeah, it was brilliant. As usual, we get put into another group of two, and this lady, she was originally from America, but she lives in England now. She lives down in Brighton, and our teacher had asked us on this one, which was something different, which I'd never done. She's like, I want you to ask Spirit to give you a celebrity, and that first celebrity what comes to you is going to describe that person you're reading in the spirit world. And straight away I got Frank Sinatra. So this basically described the gentleman who is in spirit, which was her grandfather. And, down to the way he was, I guess, as you think of Frank Sinatra, this is what this gentleman was, being smartly dressed, enjoyed a little tipple, probably a bit outspoken. And I always thought of Frank Sinatra being quite strict and stern, and that sort of summed up her grandfather. So I had him through, and, I was giving her this reading about him. And then for the first ever time, I had 4 links, and this has never happened before, which is 4 different people in spirit. Because normally I'd give a message and I might have one person, and then I'm sort of stuck then how to, swap links. But for some reason it flowed today. And what I remember from this was the gentleman in the background. And I said, as I'm explaining it to her about this other gentleman, I'm like, he's completely opposite to this guy. He's the kind of guy who will like, oh, you go first before me. But then he's the one who's stuck when the shop's shut because he's let everyone else go in front of him. That's the best way to explain it, how I was feeling about his energy. And then I got both grandmas through, which turned out obviously both grandparents had passed. And for the first time in 4 years, I had 4 links, and I knew exactly who I was with. I knew who was talking to me, and I knew when the energy changed, and the people who was with me. It was amazing. It's never ever flowed like that for me. And that was the first time on the weekend I'd done the full 15 minutes, down to the point where you got the message on the screen saying the right time to change over. So I was definitely made up with that one. And I even said that when I went back into the lobby to talk to the teacher, like, it flowed so much better. I weren't overthinking, and if I felt like I got stuck, I used the drawer. When she says open the drawer, I ask Spirit to put something in. So, and it flowed so much better. And then the reading I got back off her was very interesting. She picked up on my nana, and it was great because it's not very often my nana comes through. It's mainly my granddad, to be honest. So it was lovely to get a message from my nana, and her describing my nana and things, from this celebrity. I can't remember who the celebrity was because I'd never heard of that person before, so I wasn't sure. But yeah, it was, she described my nana down really well. There's a few things couldn't understand, but obviously then go back and ask my mum, and then it all made sense then. So yeah, it was brilliant, and like I say, it was nice to get a message from a nana. And I think, when you get a message from someone who doesn't come through as often, it's lovely, and it just gives you that knowing, and that they are around you and they are with you, and yeah, it's just beautiful. So we go back before dinner and we have one more group, and again we're put into 2. And this lady, she was from California, I was talking to, and she was full working medium. So I was nervous. And she decided to go first, and she picked up on my granddad. It was one of the most beautiful readings I've ever had, like to the point where I was nearly welling up emotion. She picked up about my granddad being a medium, about being very spiritual, and of course with him helping me on my spiritual pathway and with my mediumship, and the fact that he's been impressed with actually some of the stuff I've come out with while on my development. And it was amazing, the love I felt from that reading. He kept calling me son. Me and my granddad had a very, very, very close relationship. He was more like a dad to me. He was my best mate. And to get that message, and it's just all love and very, very, very full of evidence. And yeah, it's making me just think about it, and just like, yeah, wow. And again, that's what doing this is about. I was asked a question once, and the point of the question was like, why do you want to do this? Why is it you want to become a medium? Why do you want to work with spirit? And I said, it's not about money, it's not about gain, it's not about being famous, it's not about anything. It's about being able to give people that evidence and that proof that the loved ones are around them. The afterlife is there. And for you to walk away out of that church, out of that reading, out of that sitting, wherever it is, to go, wow, I felt them with me. You know that they're there and give you that evidence. Stuff what you'd never know in a million years. And that's what it's about to me. And that reading definitely did all that for myself. Then it was my turn, and I even turned to her and said, how do I follow that? And I'd picked up on this lady, which I later found out at the end of the meeting with her. Like, used to be a spiritual counsellor. Like, she helped her with her development and things. I don't remember much about what I said to her, but one of the notes I wrote on my in my book for this was best reading of the weekend, went well, really proud of myself, feel emotional. And I do remember finishing that reading with her and giving her the evidence and things. And she, like you said, this lady's a working medium, and for her at the end to say well done and that she's proud of me. And I'd never met this lady before, and the evidence I give her was all correct. It was just amazing. And the energy I was feeling and all this emotion, it was fantastic. And thankfully we had a break after that reading, because I definitely needed it, just to sort of sit back and think about it. And then I called my mum, which I always do, especially on my mediumship things, and saying how proud I was of myself on that one and how emotional it was, and just to chill out for a minute. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was brilliant. So then it come back to sort of the end, coming towards the end of the weekend, and this was very, very difficult. So what we had to do, we had to ask Spirit to take us to their house, and we had to describe their house and which was their favourite room, and describe what you see, basically. Say what you see, as catchphrase says. And it was very, very difficult. To be honest, I felt like the woman as well was putting a bit of a brick wall up, so it was harder to read. And I think as well, coming towards the end of the weekend, I starting to get a heavy brain and start with a headache and feeling tired, because obviously we'd done so much work. So as we were doing this, as I say, it was really, really difficult, but I picked up on her father, it was. So I went into the house, and he took me to like a study, I think it was, and she couldn't take it. And then I went into this workshop. That's sort of how it looked, and then all the tools on the wall. So she could take this, and it turns out he was a mechanic from his garage, her father. But then it was stop again, and I was just like, as if you sort of had a mental block. It's just so difficult. But then it come to the point, and I thought, I need to ask this question, but I don't want to ask questions. So I thought, I'm just gonna have to ask her. I said, what I feel like with this gentleman, my brain is in a completely different place, and I said, I feel a bit lost, and I said, I don't know how to reword it, so I'm just going to ask you, did he suffer with memory issues or, forgetfulness like Alzheimer's or dementia before he passed? And then she went quiet, and then she went, yes, he did, yeah, that makes sense, yeah, he had Alzheimer's. Like, right, okay. We got there. And then it started to flow a bit, and then unfortunately my time was up, and then it was her time to have a go, which she took me into my granddad's house and took me around the house. And in all fairness to her, she did really well. She there's quite a few pieces of evidence she gave me, what was in the house when he lived there. Again, which was cool, to be able to get that evidence and that confirmation, of course. But we had a bit of a chat towards the end, because this lady was from Austria. She was from, and we were obviously having a bit of a chat, and she's like, maybe this way of working isn't your calling. I said, possibly. I said, I've never done it before, and it was an interesting one, to say the least. There we are. That was the basis of the course with the Arthur Findley College I was gutted though it wasn't at the college, because I believe, for the listeners who have been to the college, and obviously a few of the people I did meet over the course of the weekend had been to the college, and they said he's absolutely amazing. Like, the energy in that place. Things do go bump in the night, and the experiences you have just walking around the corridors, it's absolutely phenomenal, they were saying. So hopefully we'll get there at some point. So I am ready to book on another course for later in the year where I'll be able to go down to the college. So guys, I want to know if you've ever been to the Arthur Findley College in Essex, or if you've ever been on a course with them, like I did over Zoom. Let me know what your experiences were and what happened, because I'd definitely love to know and be able to share your story, of course, on the podcast. So please do get in contact with us. But for those who haven't, and I hope you have taken something out of this today, for people who do listen and thinking about developing their mediumship and, thinking about the awareness class and things, it's definitely worth taking a look at the website and seeing what courses they've got. And of course, your local spiritualist church or local mediums, as many of you know, I've mentioned a few times, Denise, who works with us at Paranormal Living, I go to her class. So it's definitely something to look at and get involved in, definitely. So just before we do log off, I am happy this week we managed to get a longer podcast. I know the Townley Hall one, I don't even know how, but it ended up at 20 minutes. We were talking for over an hour, but there was, I think there was a lot of waffle. But if you haven't listened to it, take a listen back. There's a few little stories there to do with Townley Hall, where me and Jay are from, of course, in Burnley. But definitely an amazing place to visit. And finally, everyone, I'd just like to say thank you very much, for taking your time out to listen to the show. Be a part of Paranormal Living. If you would like to get in contact with the show, come on to the show, talk about your experiences, your stories. Please do get in contact with us. Like you said, you can get us on Facebook, Paranormal Living, TikTok, Paranormal Living, Twitter, Paranormal Live 20, and of course, YouTube, Paranormal Living TV, and get us on email, Paranormal Living Podcast. But all links and details are in the description below. So, without further ado, guys, all the best. Enjoy the rest of the week. Love and light.